Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Oakville Chambers live stream lunch. Today we have with us Blair Botsford from Blaney McMurtry. She is one of the partners there and is an estates and trust lawyer. Blair, could you help us out with some information about yourself, really, about your background, about everything that you do?
Yeah, thanks, Shane, and thanks to the Chamber as well as the viewers. I'm very glad to be here today. I'm trained as a lawyer, of course, and I'm also trained as a mediator. I specialize in estate planning and estate administration, so the typical things covered there are wills, trusts, powers of attorney and guardianship applications, disability planning and advanced care planning, as well as probate and the estate administration process. I belong to several professional organizations. One is the Society of Trust and Estates Practitioners, which is an international organization. Then there's the Halton and Toronto Estate Planning Councils and the Ontario Bar Association, which has a bunch of subgroups related to trust and estates.
Okay, well, the title of the program is Plan Well, Live Well, and Leave an Organized Estate. Can you give us an idea of why you chose that title?
I've been using the Plan Well, Live Well tagline for quite a few years, and I've always felt that there's a wellness aspect to the estate planning process. But in the last while, I've added the Leave an Organized Estate component to give more focus to my message, and I really do believe that having an organized estate is a gift that people give to others.
Mm-hmm. So when would we go about, starting the process of planning an estate?
Really, there's no bad time to start planning, other than once you've lost capacity or passed away. It's kind of hard to do it then. But no, everyone needs to do estate planning, so it's a matter of getting going. Everyone has an estate, which is just all that they own and all that they owe. So it's a matter of degree. Some people's lives are more complicated, some less complicated.
All right. And how do we go about starting the process itself?
I would say the first step is to find an estate planning lawyer you feel you're going to be comfortable working with. Make an appointment so you've got a target to work towards, and they'll give you some guidance on the information you need to collect, your personal details and that about your family, other people who are dependent on you, financial information, and anything else they feel is relevant to the exercise. If you have a little trouble procrastinating on things like this, tell someone who's going to keep you accountable and make sure you get to that appointment.
Okay, might have an issue with that myself. Now, once we've gone and taken all your wonderful advice and we have a plan in place, what's next?
The next step is keeping it in place. It's not really a one-time exercise. Do it, stick it in a drawer, never think about it again. I like to see it as a roadmap or a reference point. So then as life unfolds, marriage, divorce, birth, death, buy an asset, sell an asset, you've got something to track back to, and you're not starting from scratch every time you do something. Mm-hmm. It can make it a lot easier to stay on track and avoid problems.
Yeah. So on that, what are some of the risks of not having a plan in place, or just as important, not having it up to date?
The three main ones are delay, extra costs, and then interpersonal conflict. Fixing a mistake or doing things in a hurry can typically take longer and be more expensive, and you'd like to avoid hurt feelings. But just as a basic example, setting in place powers of attorney is relatively simple and inexpensive. But if you don't have them or haven't kept them up to date, doing a guardianship application is a formal court application process. It takes time and effort. Costs are quite significant. You're looking at a minimum of $10,000 or more if there's a conflict or a challenge to it. And then, if you're not keeping plans up to date, you're missing opportunities potentially to minimize tax, minimize probate fees. But the human side of it can be one of the most difficult things for lawyers to see. Dead people don't give explanations for why they did things, and it can literally tear families apart, wondering what on earth happened.
Yeah. Well, at this point, we haven't talked about any specific documents like wills. Is there any reason why?
Yeah, I don't really see people's life as a transaction or series of transactions. I see it more as a journey. And so eventually we usually do need to kill some trees to put the plans in place, but the important exercise is the goal setting, knowing what the objectives are, and the paperwork is not the goal. People's lives are the goal, and the paperwork helps them get where they want to go.
Yeah. Now, I know you're very, very passionate about this. What's led that passion?
It started out as a keen academic interest. I've always had kind of a fascination with tax, but corporate was too dry. Didn't want to do just tax, so trust and estates really ticked all the boxes for me and fit my personality. But then over 22 years of practice, I've seen, the benefits to clients of having things in order, and, it minimized stress, gave them peace of mind. And I've seen what happens when it doesn't go so well, and the extra expense and the aggravation, and, sometimes family members just not talking to each other ever again. But I'm human as well, lawyer notwithstanding. And I've had my own personal experiences. My father was diagnosed with cancer when I was in law school. They initially didn't think he had very long. Unfortunately, he survived to see me get called to the bar. But, my folks kept their affairs up to date, so that was handy. There was a little bit of family drama along the way, but we always had open, frank discussions about his health, where things were going, what his expectations were, so there wasn't any mystery and any confusion with the healthcare system. But it helped, for me at least, process the grief, because you got used to it over time and didn't deal with it all in one shot. I've faced my own mortality. I had a good scare a few years ago and ended up having major surgery. Fortunately, it was a false alarm, or I wouldn't still be here to tell you this. But, I was running my own law practice at the time, so I had to fairly quickly be able to shut it down for a few months to be out and recover. And then it took time to get back on track. So if I wasn't organized, it would have been much harder. And just as I eventually got myself back together, my mom's health fell apart, and quite significantly. Overnight she went to bed mum, woke up not mum the next morning. It was a brain tumor, and we never had really a meaningful mother-daughter conversation ever again. And it was 10 months of running flat out. And fortunately, her affairs were in order. She had an estate lawyer as a daughter, so they better be. But I certainly wouldn't have wanted more challenge. It was relentless at times. So I was very glad not to have legal problems added to the mix when life decided to pile on.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of us out here have actually seen this stuff firsthand, so that one hits home. Can you give us any final thoughts?
Just the same message. Do yourself a favor, have an estate plan, keep it up to date. It's going to give you peace of mind and peace of mind to the people around you. Leave a legacy of kindness rather than chaos.
Blair, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Obviously the information you've given us today is very, very valuable. It's been a real privilege to have you here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane. The privilege is all mine.